A CIA officer awoke in his Moscow hotel room. He heard something that wasn't there. The same thing happened to American officials in Havana, China, Vienna, and Washington. 4 investigations, no agreement on cause, over 1,000 cases on record, most unexplained. More than 1,000 American government employees filed formal reports describing the same thing. Congress compensated them, the CIA's conclusion most find hard to believe. The United States Embassy in Havana had been closed for 54 years. In August 2015, the flag went back up. The diplomats who arrived knew they would be watched by Cuban intelligence and likely by others. They came anyway. Intelligence officers were stationed alongside diplomats. In Havana in 2016, this felt routine. Marc Polymeropoulos had been with the CIA for nearly 25 years. Middle East, Central Asia, Europe, 1 tour left before retirement. He had already started thinking about what came after, one last assignment, then done. In December 2017, he woke at 3 in the morning in a Moscow hotel room, the room spinning, pressure building behind his eyes. He described it as something inserted directly into his skull. He had never felt this before. It had started in Havana, late 2016. Embassy personnel described something they couldn't name. A high-pitched tone, or a pressure, directional. It stopped when you moved rooms. By early 2017, 21 American personnel had been medically evacuated from Havana. The State Department called them anomalous health incidents. They did not yet use the word attack. The cases didn't stay in Havana. By mid-2017, American consulate staff in Guangzhou reported the same symptoms. 40 employees, MRI imaging, white matter abnormalities in people who had never sustained a head trauma. The JAMA study published in 2018 stopped short of naming a cause. However, the government commissioned its own classified review. The Jason report went further. Clinically distinct, unexplained by any known condition or prior illness. Inside the State Department, 2 assessments were circulating simultaneously. One used the word attack, one used hysteria. Which one reached the Secretary of State's desk would determine everything that followed. Polymeropoulos cut the Moscow trip short. He filed a formal complaint with the CIA medical office requesting acknowledgement. It was never connected to the Havana incidents. The cases spread. Vienna, Bogota, New Delhi. American personnel in a dozen countries reported identical symptoms. In 2020, it reached Washington. NSC staff reported symptoms on the ground of the White House itself. The CIA opened a dedicated task force. Congress and the FBI were both formally involved. Russia was the primary suspect. The capability existed. The motivation existed. The evidence did not. No intercepts, no device recovered. No source could name an operation, just the reports. In 2018, the classified Jason Advisory Group reviewed the evidence and was reportedly skeptical of a deliberate attack. In December of 2020, the National Academy of Sciences released their assessment, not classified, available to anyone. Secretary Tillerson was asked about what happened to American personnel in Havana, September 2017. He used one word, attacks. That memo reached his desk. The one that used the word hysteria remained in the building. In 2021, Congress passed the Havana Act, formal compensation and medical support for affected personnel. bipartisan. The CIA's task force had been running for 2 years. Their assessment was due, and what they found was not what the affected officers had hoped for. Low confidence. That was the CIA's interim finding in 2022. The CIA's final assessment came in 2023. 7 agencies. One conclusion: most cases probably not deliberate. Environmental factors, pre-existing conditions, stress. The assessment covered most cases this way. It was framed as closing the question. Inside the CIA, 7 officers filed formal dissents. They did not accept the conclusion. 7 people, with clearances, with access to the same files, who had reached a different answer. Their names were not released. Their reasoning was not released. What was released was the conclusion they had formally rejected. The 24 unexplained cases had something the others did not. Physical evidence, verifiable, documented on imaging, brain changes. Polymeropoulos had filed the complaint. He had followed the process. He had waited. He was watching. The question that remained, at the institutional level, was what happened to the 24 cases that didn't fit. If directed pulsed energy is the mechanism, as the National Academies concluded, it is a weapon. And if it is a weapon, it was used on American soil, inside the security perimeter of the White House. In 2021, congressional investigators called it a national security failure. Not a health phenomenon, a national security failure. Marc Polymeropoulos medically retired from the CIA in 2019. He still has the headaches. He has testified before the Senate. He has written about it. The headaches did not stop. The investigation is formally closed at the federal level. The task force disbanded. The official answer? Probably not deliberate. As of 2024, the CIA investigation has closed. The 24 cases remain unexplained. The 7 dissenters remain on record. The task force that received their objection is gone. 3 theories remain: deliberate attack, accidental exposure from surveillance, overlapping medical explanations for most, but not all. The 3rd theory is the CIA's. It accounts for every case, except the 24. Soviet and Russian programs worked in this area for decades. The science is not speculative. He had done what the process asked. He had followed every step available to him. He still has the headaches. He says he probably always will. The Senate called certain cases a national security failure. The CIA disagreed. The gap was never publicly reconciled. What happened in Havana set something in motion. The motion officially stopped. The question hasn't. Several officers described the same experience, years of uncertainty about whether anyone inside the institution would protect them. It was Congress saying in law, "We believe you." It did not say, "We know what happened." The CIA's final word, probably not deliberate. The officers with the brain scans disagree. And to this day, we still don't know the truth.